Hi everyone, this is Jeremiah from Frontier Precision, and today I'm going to record a little video on making a corridor flight plan for the Alta X using the Alta Q Ground Control desktop application, and we're going to be planning this with the YellowScan Mapper Plus Lidar payload. So what we'll do first is we'll make sure we're going into our mission planning screen, which is this guy right here, and then after that we're going to select Pattern, and then we're going to select corridor scan. So when we select corridor scan, you'll see this guy pop up right here, and we're just going to drag and drop these to the extents of the corridor that we want to fly. So I'm just going to pick something random, and then you can see that we need a point in the middle right here. So what we'll do is, you see this right here, there's a little plus button node. We'll hit that, and now it becomes a node that we can move. When we fly corridors, we typically want to fly with LiDAR at least 2 flight lines, one on either side of the corridor or the road that we want to fly. And that's how I'll have it set up. So we'll do that. Like that. So now that we have our corridor selected, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over our mission parameters. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go to our mission start. We can actually move this closer towards the area that we're probably going to take off. So let's say right here. The next thing after that is we're going to want to check our waypoint altitude. So this is the height that it's going to go before it starts off on its flight. And 60 meters is what we're going to fly at. So I'm going to leave that. But you can easily change this to whatever you want. It'll prompt you. But for me, I'm going to set it back to 60. For flight speed, we do want to change the flight speed. So for this mission, let's say we want to fly it at 10 meters a second. We just put in 10, and that changes our flight speed to 10 meters a second. In terms of the settings that we're going to use for the sensor, though, the YellowScan Mapper Plus, there are a couple charts inside the manual that you can reference, or I've also created these little flashcards that you can cut up and stick in the case if you want to too. But if we reference the chart, we can see that if we're going to fly at 60 meters and then we go up, we can see that the approximate swath width is going to be a little bit more than 80 meters. I'm just going to say it's going to be 80 meters even though it's a little bit more. So we're going to end up having a little bit more than 50% overlap. And then when it comes to right here for our point density when we're flying and our speed, so we said we're going to fly at 10 meters a second, which is this line right here. And then we're going to go to 60 meters, which is right here. And if we go up on this chart, you'll see that we'll have a little bit over 250 points per square meter. So taking that information, we can put that all into here. So we're going to fly at 10 meters a second, so I put 10 meters a second. We don't need to change the camera. We're going to keep the mode in survey. But we do want to check this button that says return to launch. So after it's done with the mission, it's going to start coming back to where you took off from. But once we have those parameters set, we can then go to this third step right here, which is the corridor scan. So this is actually the planning of these mission flight lines. In here, we're going to not choose a camera because the YellowScan Mapper Plus is technically standalone, so we don't need a camera in there. This right here is going to be our mission altitude, which is going to be 60 meters. You can change this again if you want. But again, our flight is going to be at 60 meters. Trigger distance doesn't matter because we're not triggering a camera. We're starting and stopping the LiDAR scanner before we take off. And then when we come down to here, we see our spacing again, because we said we wanted the 50% overlap. We want to make sure we maintain that 40-meter side distance to get that 50% overlap. So right here, we'll put our side spacing as 40 meters. And then we get to these corridor things right here. Usually I'll check images and turnarounds because you don't really need images and turnarounds, but the width. So this is the width of the corridor that you want to get. So how much data outside you're going to collect. So let's say the width that we want is going to be 100 meters. we can select 100 meters, and you can see to maintain the overlap that we wanted, it added another flight line in there. But again, if we didn't want that width, if the corridor isn't that wide, you can go down to 50 and play around with it to get the coverage that you want out of the mission. The other thing you can do is you can rotate your entry point, but in this case, I mean, it really just depends on where you're taking off and landing, but you can change where you enter and exit the mission. So let's say I want to enter and exit right here. You can rotate the entry point right here. Underneath that is terrain. Again, this really depends on the type of terrain you're flying, but in general, I will always choose to follow the terrain, the tolerance, plus or minus 10 meters. I'll change that to 5, but I'll usually leave these at their defaults. But after we have gone through and set these parameters right here, one thing I forgot to go over is this turnaround distance right here. So the turnaround distance is how far outside the boundary it's going to fly that you set. So if I wanted to set my turnaround distance a little further out, I can do it, let's say 25 meters. And then you can see that it extends my flight line out a little bit further just to ensure I collected everything within my boundary. But once this mission is created with the parameters that we want, that is pretty much it. This is how to plan your corridor mission with the Alta X on the Alta Q Ground Control desktop app for the YellowScan Mapper Plus payload, this guy right here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can find me at jeremiah@frontierprecision.com, or you could shoot an email to uas@frontierprecision.com, and any one of us on the team will be able to do what we can to help you out. Again, hopefully this helps, and I'll talk to you guys later.